Happening now on Grid Tonight. Adrian Newey has decided his future by signing with Aston Martin. Can Newey help Aston Martin reach the front of the Formula One grid? Kyle Larson is giving the double another go. Will he be able to complete both races uninterrupted in 2025? IndyCar is introducing an alternate tire for the championship race at Nashville. How will it impact the title fight between Alex Palou and Will Power? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert, and with me are Joshua Birch and Matthew Owens from the Ultimate Sports Radio Network. We encourage everyone to comment and chat, ask questions, and support us through Super Chat. And before we begin today's show, I want to recognize the significance of this day in history. 23 years ago today, our nation changed forever on September 11, 2001, when we were attacked on this tragic day. Early in the morning, two planes crashed into the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. Flight 11 into the North Tower at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Time, and Flight 175 into the South Tower at 9:03 a.m. Eastern Time. Both buildings later collapsed. The South Tower at 9:59 a.m. Eastern Time, and the North Tower at 10:28 a.m. Eastern Time. Then Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. Eastern Time, while Flight 93 crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m. Eastern Time. Nearly 3,000 people tragically lost their lives on this sad day. Innocent people on those airplanes, people inside the World Trade Center towers and the Pentagon, plus all the first responders who paid the ultimate sacrifice to help others. 23 years after one of the darkest days in our history, we continue to reflect on the 9/11 terrorist attacks and everyone who was impacted. We will never forget. And the graphic on your screen right there, courtesy of Free Pick. And now, Josh, I'll turn over to you with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening to you both, and good evening, everybody, as well. And I hope everybody is having a very good memorial to what was a horrific day as well. And it's a testament as well to how everybody can come together in this world as well. We feel it over here in the UK, and our sentiments go over to you as well over there as America remembers today as well. It seems irrelevant to talk about motorsport, but that's one of the best things that you can do is to just never forget and keep on talking about the things that make people passionate in this world. And this is going to be a very passionate show we bring you tonight, because it's been the worst kept secret in Formula One, really. One of the most brilliant engineers as well in all of motorsport history, and car designers, engineering minds as well. He has finally decided where he's going. Adrian Newey has signed with the Aston Martin Formula One team for the 2025 season and beyond, leaving his role as Chief Technical Officer at his longtime team Red Bull Racing. Newey will begin his work at Aston Martin in March in 2025 as the team's managing technical partner. Now, Newey wanted a change of scenery in the next chapter of his F1 career, and Aston Martin provided him a new home for his guidance and creativity. Now, looking at some of the things for Newey to be excited about, we have a new set of technical regulations coming in 2026. Aston Martin will be using Honda power units, advanced fuels by Aramco, and the team has invested a lot in a new wind tunnel. Newey said that he's thrilled to join Aston Martin after seeing how much team owner Lawrence Stroll has invested in the team's future success, noting how he is the only majority team owner actively engaged in the sport. The photo courtesy there of Aston Martin F1. So, Kobe, the worst kept secret in the paddock seems to be out. There were a lot of rumours whether or not it would be Ferrari or even Williams at times. It seems now it's Aston Martin. So, is Aston Martin a good fit for Newey? Do you think that this will be the final landing spot for his F1 career?
Well, when you look at where Newey is right now, age-wise, I'm going to answer the second part of that question first. I think this will more than likely be his final landing spot in Formula One, and I think that he has a huge opportunity here to do something special with Aston Martin. He already listed all the great things Aston Martin have. There's a lot to be excited about if you work for Aston Martin, because, like you said, they've invested a lot in this F1 project. It's more of a long-term thing, next few seasons or so, see if Aston Martin can make some noise. But you can't go wrong with Adrian Newey. I think Adrian Newey is one of those rare people in Formula One that whatever he wants, he gets, just so we can try to get him in. And I really think he's going to have a huge impact on Aston Martin because every team Adrian Newey touches, they find success at some point. It may not be in year one, may not be in year two, but at some point down the line, Adrian Newey is going to find success with Aston Martin. It would not surprise me at some point in the future if we see them, battling for wins on a regular basis. See an Aston Martin driver getting podiums, in the mix for the constructors. I think there's a lot of potential for Aston Martin. We'll just have to wait to see how it goes. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of people were kind of surprised that he didn't choose Ferrari, especially since Newey's made comments in the past that he would love to, work for Ferrari someday. And Lewis Hamilton's going over there next year, and he said that Hamilton is one of the drivers that he loved to work with. But one of the drivers who are currently at Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, that's another one of the drivers that Newey said he wanted to work with. So at least he got 1 out of 2 there. So I guess that's good enough that he'll get to work with Alonso over Hamilton. But yeah, I do think that there's a lot of potential for this to be a good fit. And I know, Josh, when we move on into the second part of this segment, we're going to find out some more details of how this deal came about, and I'll expand a little bit more on my answer.
Absolutely, because if we look at how this deal came together, according to Lawrence Barretto as well from F1.com, he's also on F1 TV as the journalist who answers all the questions in the pen. Aston Martin started to seriously pursue Adrian Newey back in April. Lawrence Stroll and Newey have a history of working out together at hotel gyms during race weekends around the world. I think Lawrence said that he was on a bicycle and Adrian was on a treadmill, so they were very much ready and willing to go. They weren't strangers, and when the negotiations began, Stroll knew that he'd had tough competition from rival F1 teams in the paddock for Newey's services, so he had to think of a way to truly sell his vision to the legendary car designer as well. It's before the Canadian Grand Prix a few months ago. Aston Martin team members were sent to work from the factory in the United Kingdom on race day, were told to stay at home. So while Newey got a private tour of the facility, and it was after the tour that Newey was blown away and impressed, seeing that Aston Martin was willing to invest any resource needed to succeed in Formula One. What really got Newey more interested in Aston Martin over the others, who was the willingness to offer him the chance to become a shareholder and partner, which is something that he has wanted. In fact, one of the main reasons he left Williams as well back in the 1990s was because Frank Williams was set against Adrian Newey getting an ownership in the team and becoming a partner. He refused that, so Adrian went off to McLaren. He's also wanted that at Red Bull. He never got it as well. And it's interesting enough that Adrian made his mind up after the Japanese Grand Prix, which is the same time that it was announced as well who the new owners would be around Red Bull and how the new format would work going forward. So Adrian was took one look at that and gone, right, that's it, I'm off. So the link to all of that is in the video description below. And according to Sky Sports News, Newey's salary is expected to be over $26 million, and that could rise to $39 million with bonuses as well. That's about £86 per hour, which is absolutely fantastic. So with more context to the situation, do you see how Aston Martin persuaded Newey to choose them over a competitor like Ferrari?
Yeah, Josh, you just mentioned how much Adrian Newey is going to be making, and like I said in the previous answer, I believe Adrian Newey is one of those rare people. Be like, what if Adrian wants this? You get him that, because he's one of those people who can truly make a difference in a Formula One program. You don't sign Adrian Newey, you might be stuck in the midfield when we get to the next set of regulation. You hire Adrian Newey, and you might have a chance to fight towards the front. So I think Aston Martin did everything that they had to do to try to get Adrian. And yeah, there's certainly a lot to be excited about. This new facility that Aston Martin has built, and heck, Adrian Newey even got a private tour of this facility with nobody there. Everybody else had to go home. I think that's really wild, but they definitely rolled out the red carpet for him and wanted to show him, that they meant business, that they are serious people about trying to get to the front of the grid. And I don't think Adrian Newey would want to go to a program, that's, in shambles, I guess, like the Audi F1 project, because I know in the past few shows we've talked about Audi and how things are not really going well there behind the scenes. So that's probably wouldn't be the type of project that Adrian would want to be a part of. But Aston Martin, a team, have all these resources in play. They're adding a lot of other key people to this organization, though. Aston Martin is on the upward trajectory, so there's definitely a lot, to look forward to here. And then another thing that you mentioned in the previous segment, Josh, about Lawrence Stroll being a I guess hands-on team owner. That's something that kind of surprised me. I actually did not know that about Lawrence Stroll, that he's actually more actively engaged. It's not like some of the F1 programs that we see, where you basically have the boss sit back and hire somebody else to run the team and you report to me. But it seems like Lawrence Stroll is actively engaged with the team and doing whatever he can to invest here and invest there so the team has the best possible chance for a long-term success. So I think that was an interesting note right there. But yeah, becoming a shareholder and a partner, within team ownership, that is huge for Adrian Newey. I know a lot of times, in various racing series, you'd have maybe a driver, come to like a team owner and being like, I want a stake in the team ownership. And then, you just get kind of laughed out the door. And just as you brought up, Adrian Newey basically had the same experience when they're back at Williams, going to Sir Frank asking, hey, can I be a part of the ownership? And then, just laugh you out the door. And then you have to figure out what you want to do from there. And I guess Adrian Newey finally felt like he was getting the respect that he rightfully deserved after all these years, and that Lawrence Stroll, was able to let him become a part of the ownership group by having become that shareholder and partner, because that's probably one of the final things Adrian Newey wanted to accomplish in his Formula One career, to basically have a voice at the table, so to speak, and to become one of the most powerful people at this Aston Martin F1 team. So it sounds like Adrian Newey definitely got a great deal, and I can definitely see why he chose Aston Martin over other options.
Something insane about like a 19.3% win rate that Adrian Newey has in Formula One, which is higher than some F1 drivers as well. And as you say, he has every team he's been with has had a Grand Prix winning car. So it's just absolutely fantastic to think what it could do. And yeah, how different things could be if Frank Williams had given Adrian Newey a part of the Williams team back in the 1990s. If Williams could be still winning championships to this day. And it was a possibility that he could go back there, but sadly, it is not going to be the fairy tale for him to go back to Williams and try and bring them back up to a success. Interesting enough that James Vowles has said just before this weekend's Azerbaijan Grand Prix that him signing Carlos Sainz is step one of 1,000, and that he's expecting them to be winning races in about 2 to 3 years' time. Same timeline that Aston Martin have to be winning races within 3 years. Of course, regulation changes 26, 27 is when everything else comes back up. So it's getting good. And I've seen people saying, oh, Adrian Newey is going to make Fernando Alonso world champion 2025. He won't design next year's car. He doesn't even start working for the team until the midweek of January. So that's not going to be.
March 1st.
Oh, is it March 1st? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was March 1st. I think I saw that in the press release when I was reading it. And also, Josh wanted to bounce off the point on putting timelines on things. I know James Vowles said Williams, will hope to be winning races by 2028. What did Alpine say? I forgot who it was. Since I've been through so many team principals, it's hard to keep up with all of them. But one of their team principals said that we're going to give it 100 races before we're winning, and it's already been 100 races. How'd it work out for them? Yeah, so I don't really like putting timelines on things like that, because it can blow up on your face and embarrass you like it did Alpine there. And Alpine is still in shambles to this very day. But I hope that they end up getting things together, because right now it seems like Aston Martin is the team that has their stuff together.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it, to have a team like that, because Aston Martin we all thought they were, well, let's say when they were Racing Point, we all thought, okay, they've got something here. Then to get them as a manufacturer with Aston Martin was fantastic. And now to see them having all this come together, that means we've got Red Bull as a factory team coming in with their own power unit. You've got Ferrari, you've got Mercedes, you've got McLaren with a customer deal with Mercedes, but still as a manufacturer in a way. And then you've got Aston Martin coming in with Honda, making them a factory team as well. That's 5 of the 6 engine manufacturers who could be right up the top end of the field. And then you've got Audi coming in They're looking hopefully to get the ball running going strong. And then you've got Porsche sort of hanging around. If it goes well with Audi, they're going to try and come in. It's only really Alpine, as you say, that are off the ball. But still, we're going to run out of space. At this point, we need more teams. Otherwise, every car on the grid is going to be a factory team.
Andretti?
Andretti, yeah, they want to come in, and they're going to bring GM in, aren't they, for 2028?
If they get approved, which it doesn't really look promising right now, but who knows?
Dead man's shoes.
Andretti was one of those teams that was interested in Adrian Newey, and it would have been fun to see Adrian Newey go to Andretti, but given the murkiness of this project, it would have been nice. But I'm sure Adrian Newey wanted to get some stability, and Aston Martin is already well in the sport. They've invested in this and that, and it really seems like a safe option for him rather than go to Andretti, because you go to Andretti, let's say they don't get in, then you basically wasted a couple of years of your life when you could have been in F1.
And really, I should have seen this coming a bit more. Obviously, the three teams that were rumored were Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Williams, but we should have really expected it to be Aston Martin, because Aston Martin were Racing Point, we're Force India, we're Spiker, we're Midlands, we're Jordan. So, and Adrian Newey, his manager, is Eddie Jordan. And that Aston Martin team is still based at Silverstone. Yes, they've now moved offices, but it's still on the grounds where Jordan was. So, of course, Eddie Jordan is going to get Adrian Newey into the team he started. So it just makes so much sense. And Lawrence has been around since the 1990s. He was around in the Benetton days. He's been around for a very, very long time. He's a shrewd businessman, and he knows what he wants, and he's going to get what he wants. I'm very excited, Kobe, about this. I want to pick your brain on one question that's not in the script as well. Lance Stroll or Fernando Alonso, which one's going? Because Max Verstappen's also rumoured to now be picked up and put in that car for 2026. Which one would you get rid of, Stroll or Alonso?
I said, well, thinking logically, I would get rid of Lance Stroll, but realistically, I have a bad feeling that it's going to be Fernando Alonso, and it's been amazing to see how Fernando Alonso has defied father time. He's still very quick, and you think a driver who's getting up there in age that that he's going to fall off, but we really haven't seen Fernando Alonso fall off a cliff performance wise, and I'd really like for him to hold on till 2026, 2027, so he could potentially be in an Adrian Newey design car that can go out there and fight for race wins, podiums, and put the team in a good spot constructor wise. But with Lance Stroll, we know he's obviously Lawrence's son, so I think we can obviously say that Lance is going to be in Formula One until he decides not to, as long as his father is the owner of the team. So I have a feeling Lance Stroll probably won't go anywhere until Lance Stroll says, that I'm done. But I think Lance would be very interested in staying in Formula One, until he gets an Adrian Newey design car, because why wouldn't you, right? You'd have you'd have a chance to potentially do what you've never been able to do in Formula One before, to fight up front and see what you can do towards the front of the grid. So I think that might be an enticing opportunity for Lance Stroll. But who knows? Maybe, I know it would be a difficult discussion, between father and son, or maybe at some point Lawrence comes around and decides, that having his son in this car is not really the best move, because Aston Martin, as we've talked about in this show before, they're going to have a prototype coming online next year, scheduled to make their debut in the Rolex 24 with the Heart of Racing. They're going to run in the World Endurance Championship and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So I think that will be it's not just me, it's been other members of our team as well said here on the air that will be a good landing spot for Lance Stroll. He can still be an Aston Martin driver, but in sports car racing, so he still get the drive an Aston, just in a different type of discipline. But I think Lance is probably going to hold on till he gets to drive an Adrian Newey car before he bows out of Formula One, because when you really think about it, it would be quite silly to bow out before you get to drive one of Adrian's cars.
I agree with you. And if Lance Stroll becomes a world champion, I will be very, very surprised. But stranger things have happened this season alone. Thank you, Kobe. We're going to move on to ask when the attacks happened on September the 11th as well. Well, personally for me, it's one of very early memory for me. How old was I at the time? 3, I think I was, but I can remember it happening on the television as well. It's sort of a defining moment. It was, what would have been about 3:30 our time. And all I remember is Kellyanne, who's my eldest sister, coming through the door, and Dad was already sat watching the television, and Mum had just come through as well. And it's just fleeting memories I have watching the attacks on the television. And that's all I have of a memory, obviously, because I'm not going to let a 3-year-old watch it. But obviously, going back forward and reading history as I studied history as well, learning more of the attacks and watching all the documentaries as well. And it's just it's a powerful image that remains with you all the time. And as well as always wanting to go to Auschwitz to understand the history as well, I've always wanted to go to Ground Zero as well, and it is on the list of places to go. In fact, I had a friend of mine who went there over the past Christmas break, and she said how moving it was as well. So definitely it's on the list to go and pay respects and just sort of try and understand the unthinkable. So it's that's from my point of view anyway, from what I remember from fleeting images.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't remember at all. I was literally just turned 2 years old, so obviously a 2-year-old is not going to remember what was going on. And according to my mom, I was asleep while the attack was happening, which is to be expected of a young baby like I was at the time. But like you said, Josh, I really got to understand, the significance of what happened on September 11th, 2001 through school, the education there, and also educating myself by looking at documentaries, reading stories, looking at photos of that day. I think that's how I really, got to understand the significance of that day and what it truly means of never again and that we will never forget. Yeah. So it was truly a sad day in our history, and still 23 years later, it remains a solemn day in American history. And we continue to think about everyone who was affected on that horrible, horrible day.
For me, the first one I can remember clearly in my head was 7/7. The London bombings as well. I think it was 2005, 2004, one of the, I can't remember the exact year, but that was the first one I remember in my head. It was all over the newspapers. I think, well, it would have been either four, it would have been 5 or 6. It was all over the newspapers, and all I remember was a red London bus as well, because it was just outside the tube station. And it was shrapnel everywhere and everything. So yeah, I remember that. And sadly, there's been numerous terror attacks over the years as well, and all over the world. It's horrendous, and I think, just so many that's absolutely ridiculous. So thoughts with everybody today as well. It's Patriots Day, isn't it? That's what they've named it over there.
Yeah, Patriot Day.
Yes, I thought so. I couldn't quite remember. I believe in Prime Minister's Questions time today, there was something said by Keir Starmer and all the other leaders of the parties. So I think that was what happened. I can't remember. Thank you, Kobe. We'll let you go for this part of the show now and move on, and we'll bring Matthew back in for the second story of the evening. NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Larson will give the double another shot in 2025 after Mother Nature ruined his chances of competing in the 109th Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day earlier this year. Now, hopefully everything goes according to plan next time around, with Larson completing 500 miles in his number 17 Arrow McLaren Chevrolet IndyCar, and then flying from Indianapolis to Charlotte to run 600 miles in his number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet stock car. Now, Larson will join McLaren's 4-car effort for the month of May alongside Pato O'Ward, Nolan Siegel, and Christian Lundgaard. Despite not having experience in IndyCar racing, Larson proved to be a quick learner after making it to the Firestone Fast 6 and qualifying 5th for the Indy 500. In the race, he was having a strong run until the pit road speeding penalty set him back to an 18th place finish. Larson said he had a good experience during the first time in the month of May at Indy, but felt disappointed in how things ended due to the weather delaying the start of the race, which forced him to later miss the Coca-Cola 600. But he feels like there's some unfinished business and wants to complete all 1,100 miles because he thinks he can still battle for the win in both the Crown Jewel events. McLaren CEO Zak Brown said Larson is one of the most talented drivers in racing and called it a privilege to do it again with Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon, the graphic courtesy there of Arrow McLaren. Matthew's with me for this bit. Good evening to you, Matthew, as well. So, with an Indy 500 under his belt, can Kyle Larson enter the May 2025 as one of the early favourites? And how excited are you about him getting another double attempt?
Well, I'm always excited for an Indianapolis 500, Josh. You know that.
Yeah.
257 days away. I'm very excited. I think we all kind of assumed this was going to happen after the unfortunate circumstances that happened this past year. This is very exciting, though. And hopefully this is just going to continue opening doors for more people to do this. I've always said I would love to see an IndyCar driver, full-time IndyCar driver try to do it, try to do the 500 and the 600. Maybe we'll get there, get back to that, because obviously John Andretti, I think, was mostly known as an IndyCar driver when he tried it. Even when Tony Stewart tried it for the first time in 1999, he was more known in the IndyCar world than he was in the NASCAR world. He was a rookie back then. But this is incredibly exciting. Larson was 6th with 80 laps to go in this year's race, and was running basically in that portion of the field, coming to that pit stop where he got caught for speeding. That was with about 60 or so laps to go. That took him out of contention. Since then, he's won more NASCAR races. He's won at Indianapolis in the Brickyard 400, number 1 seed in the playoffs. Obviously, very terrifying crash this past weekend in Atlanta, but we very well may be going into that 500 in a roughly 250 days, talking about Kyle Larson as the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, the defending Brickyard 400 winner, the defending Indianapolis 500 Rookie of the Year, and having a really good chance to win the 500. We know more than likely he's going to be in a very fast car. As you mentioned, extremely strong performance in qualifying, making it all the way to the Fast Six and the run for the pole. This is going to be not only exciting because it's happening again, but if we can just wake up to that Sunday and not have any threat of weather, it's almost going to be like it's happening for the first time. Because, and Josh, you'll remember this because you were covering the day as well, just as I was. It was almost a sense of dread. The entire week, the forecast was showing 70, 80, 90% chance of rain. We knew it was coming, and it just never, those rain chances never broke away. And in the back of your mind all week long, Monday and then Wednesday and then Friday, and then God help us when we got up Sunday, it's like, what's going to happen here? Is he going to have a chance to run the entire race? Because, I mean, that was a car that very much had a chance of winning. And I just can't imagine how, I mean, you could hear him almost depressed how he sounded talking to NBC because he knew what the delayed start meant. So we'll see what happens this year. Hopefully we won't have to deal with any weather. But if all stays clean, I was going to say clean and green, but green isn't clean on a radar, is it? If all stays clean weather-wise, it's going to be tremendously exciting because he can win both of these races. And, you know, the last few years, I've said multiple times, if Helio Castroneves wins a 5th Indianapolis 500, it's the greatest moment in motorsports history. If Kyle Larson wins the Indianapolis 500, then flies to Charlotte, and God help us, wins the Coca-Cola 600, that's the greatest achievement in motorsports history, perhaps. It's certainly got to be talked about at the very least. So this is going to be an amazingly exciting attempt once again next year.
I still remember the night that Mo Farah did the double in London in 2012. Super Saturday. We had a gold medal every 90 minutes in the athletics as well. And it was absolutely fantastic. So definitely it would still be talked about. Saying that, I can just look down and see the London Olympics. I brought the box set as well. It's all down there, just under my desk as well on the chair. As I previously mentioned, then Larson did miss was the priority over NASCAR's longest race, and since he missed the race at Charlotte, he didn't score any points. Ended up costing him in a big way later on. Tyler Reddick ended up winning the regular season championships, which comes with a bonus of 15 playoff points. Now, Reddick beat Larson by a single point, meaning if Larson had chosen to leave Indy early and make the race start at Charlotte, he would have been this year's regular season champion and collected the additional points. Now, although things didn't go as expected, Rick Hendrick said that Larson's double attempt was good for HendrickCars.com from a sponsorship perspective because it measured a 3-to-1 return on their investment. However, unlike Larson's first Indy 500, Hendrick says that the Coca-Cola 600 will be the main priority as well this time around. So if Larson finds himself in a similar weather situation, or if he's leading the Indy 500, but running out of time to make it to Charlotte, they'll have to pull the plug on Indy and get him to the NASCAR race. Tony Kanaan would be Larson's driver on standby as well. This comes after NASCAR officials took a long time to decide whether or not to give Larson a waiver to give him playoff eligible as well. First of all, if he's leading the Indy 500, he's staying in that car, no matter what they'll say beforehand. If he's 30 laps to go and leading, he is staying in that car, even if there's a red flag, like Alonso had a couple of years ago. He is staying in that race as long as possible. So, do you think missing out on the regular season championship by 1 point caused Hendrick to prioritize Charlotte over Indianapolis? And could it also be a sign that NASCAR's waiver was just the one-time thing?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of those two things. The regular season championship, certainly meaningful. And as you mentioned, losing out in that battle by 1 point. Had he gotten to Charlotte and started the race, completed one lap, and that was it, finished last, he receives 1 point. He and Reddick would have ended the season tied on points, and Larson would have won the tiebreaker based on the wins that he has over Reddick. So, yeah, a last place finish at Charlotte. He's the regular season champion. It's an additional 6 playoff points. And after a crash at Atlanta in the opening race of the playoffs, he could probably use 6 additional playoff points. So, yes, I would think that did have something to do with it. And you mentioned the other point, too, that maybe, and I'm not in any way reporting this, maybe this does stem from someone inside the powers that be just whispering in Rick Hendrick's ear or Kyle Larson's ear that we're not going to give you this waiver a second time. We did you a favor by doing it once. We're not going to do it a second time. I don't know if that's what happened. People are certainly thinking that may have happened. So, yes, obviously, I do think a combination of those two things is the reason why they are going to prioritize Charlotte. But to your point, if we get like an hour red flag for whatever, crash, rain, whatever, and Kyle Larson is leading the Indianapolis 500 with 30 laps to go, and the clock is ticking on when he needs to get to the helicopter to make it to Charlotte in time, I'm sorry, you would have to be the most insane person in the racing world to think that he would step out of that car. It's the Indianapolis freaking 500, okay? Just stop with that. Are you kidding me? Also, I just wanted to bring this up because I am constantly whining about start times. We did used to start this 500 at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Used to do that for decades upon decades, and it didn't change until 2005. And at 2005, we decided to start it at the 12 o'clock hour. Now we're back. What are we starting it at now? Are we starting it almost at 1 o'clock?
It's about 6:30. 1:34 was the green flag time this year. So that was 6:34 over here in the UK.
Yeah, so we're getting very close to 1 o'clock start times for the 500.
It would start like 4 o'clock this year because of the rain and that lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. So if we could at least get that back to noon, maybe that would help. But I'm just saying that because I'm in favor of early start times and tradition. But
Monaco.
Oh yes. Yeah, Monaco. Yeah.
2 years running, we've had problems with Monaco. It's like we only just get there. If it wasn't for the rain delay, we would have missed it because Perez decided to be a wrecking ball.
Yeah. But this is going to be exciting. Can't wait for it. Like I said, I hope that sometime soon we get an IndyCar driver do it. I don't know who that would be. I know everybody looks at Newgarden as someone that could maybe step into a stock car on an oval and do things, but I'm not sure if Roger Penske would be very keen on that. But it would be nice if we could get two people doing the double. One from the NASCAR side, one full-time NASCAR driver, one full-time IndyCar driver. It'd be nice. Maybe Connor Daly.
Yeah. Daly is the one who could do it easily. If Max Chilton was still in, I would have thrown his hat into the ring because Chilton is good on stock car and in normal car. If anyone watched the Goodwood Revival over the weekend, that was good. Oh, and yeah, by the way, Jimmy Johnson, you might like to know, did win a race as well. Jimmy Johnson and Dario Franchitti did win together over the Goodwood Revival weekend. I believe they won the RAC trophy I was commentating on, if memory serves me correct. So, yes, and he was frantic, Jimmy Johnson, because the safety car came out and it locked the pit lane and he didn't know if he can come in or not. So he's frantically gesturing, can I come in? Can I come in? Because there's no radios, because they're classic cars. But yeah, they did win.
Max Chilton, by the way, who led the most laps in the 2017 Indianapolis 500. Just saying.
Yeah.
It was also the race where Ed Jones finished third and Fernando Alonso finished 24th, but they gave Alonso Rookie of the Year over him.
Popularity contest. I mean, did Kyle Larson really deserve this year's Rookie? Let's be fair.
Well,
some others.
Christian Rasmussen was amazing.
I would have given it to Christian, to be fair. And Rasmussen still is actually being impressive. See how he gets on. And it's actually quite ironic we mentioned about that because it brings us on to, have I jumped the script? No. No, just double checking that because my page went like that. So I thought Kobe might have edited the script. So here we go. Computer's lagging like crazy with the weather. I'm going to sneeze as well. So let's see how quick we get this one in. Now, for this weekend's NTT IndyCar Series season finale at Nashville Superspeedway in partnership with Firestone, IndyCar is introducing an alternative tyre compound. Now, the softer red sidewall Firestone tyres are expected to give teams the chance to come up with a strategy to position themselves in the race best when deciding how they want to use the tyres. Taking a look at the tyre allotment, each teams will receive 6 sets of the primary tyres and 4 sets of the alternative tyres. Now, this will be the second time we've seen the alternative tyre compound after debuting at Gateway in 2023. Kara Kristolak, as well, director of Firestone Tyres, praised her team at Firestone for rising to the challenge of developing a new tyre compound in a 7-month window, which was the shortest ever production time frame to produce new tyres. And they've used 2 tests earlier this year at Nashville to finalize the alternative tyre. The photo courtesy there of Penske Entertainment. I rushed that because I've got things running down my nose. Kobe's back with me. So, Kobe, are you looking forward to seeing how the softer Firestone tyre compound impacts the championship race? Personally, I think it's quite good. We've seen it work in other forms of racing series on ovals this year, and I remember it being very good at Gateway last year.
Yeah, and actually, I don't remember that Gateway race. There's been so many races that we've been covering since then, so I would have to go back and watch highlights. The only thing I remember that David Malukas was very impressive in that race at Gateway. But yeah, you mentioned all the racing series trying out. NASCAR tried that out at the All-Star race, and then they tried it out with Richmond, and it worked really, really well there. But Goodyear, Firestone, 2 completely different tire compounds, 2 different disciplines of racing. So there's really no way to know how Nashville is going to go. And this was actually quite a big surprise because so many people were talking about IndyCar needs to do this, IndyCar needs to do that. And here, out of the blue, we're going to be offering a softer Firestone tire compound. So yeah, quite a surprise there, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. I want to know how much tire fall off is there going to be. Is it going to be 1 second, 2 seconds fall off? Could we even see 3 seconds? Like, it's just added like a new layer to this championship fight that we're going to see between Alex Palou and Will Power. And it's always fun to see how the teams are going to come up with their strategy and how they're going to use the tires, because you definitely don't want to, run out of these tires too soon, because what if there's a late race caution? And this is, where the championship could be interesting. Will get even more interesting depending on what happens. Let's say Will Power, is no way. Actually, Alex Pelosi. Let's say that Alex Pelosi, is running a great race. Will Power, struggling a little bit, which would be uncharacteristic for him, on an oval like this. And then there's a late race caution. Let's say Alex Pelosi has already used up all of his alternate tires, but Will Power has just one set left, and let's say 15 laps to go. So Will Power is going to come in on this softer tire compound and potentially, get by Alex Pelosi, and then have to see where the points lie after that. So I think that's one thing where we're gonna have to watch how the team's going to use the tires. Will it be something that could potentially impact the championship? And luckily, hopefully, the weather will cooperate. I know right now in the Gulf of Mexico got Hurricane Francine spinning, and IndyCar is currently monitoring the situation with Hurricane Francine because the remnants of that storm, is expected to, drop a ton of rain in Tennessee, and we'll have to wait and see if it's going to impact the race weekend. But hopefully all the rain will be out of here so we can get on with our championship race weekend, because the teams are going to need this track time, to collect the data to see what the softer Firestone tire compound is like. So the teams really do need that practice time so they can have a good idea of how the race is going to go, and hopefully it will be a great success and really shake things up, especially if it's going to be, a race of track position. We don't really know what passing is going to look like. Are we going to see a lot of overtaking, or is it going to be like one of those races, that like we saw in Iowa, where it was basically a track position race, and once things got spread out, it was almost impossible, to make a pass. Yeah, so really, all in all, really looking forward to seeing what this Firestone tire compound is going to do.
A quick question: does Nashville have lights? I think it does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, Nashville has lights. So, yeah. So if push comes to shove, they can, have a night race there if they want to. But the only problem about that is, they would probably have to move over to USA Network, because NBC is going to prioritize Sunday Night Football.
Right. NBC, USA, just look at me here. If it is wet, delay the start time, let us all watch the NASCAR, and then we'll prioritize looking at very good prime time opportunity, a good race, your final one. Come on, make it good. You've got one more shot at this, make it a good one.
Oh yeah, final race on NBC for IndyCar. They've been around, for the longest time now. Yeah, and it's been great, see what NBC's been able to do with IndyCar. Definitely going to miss them as a broadcast partner, but also looking forward to seeing what Fox can bring to the equation, and see if they can help take IndyCar to the next level, especially with every IndyCar race being broadcast on Big Fox next year. That is very exciting for IndyCar.
Ed says, I have to say I've not watched much IndyCar this season, but the little I have seen remains as exciting as ever. Power versus Blue is a fantastic title fight. It all practically got crazy last time out there at Milwaukee in race 2. Race 1 was fantastic. I think a classic for the ages. Race 2 was the race that nobody wanted to win. It just went absolutely nuts, and I love it. And I can't wait for Nashville. I'll be on the call for that one. Well, I think Matthew is going to be on the call for Watkins Glen. My thoughts on Adrian Newey. It's funny how a very mild-mannered, bold technical director is being treated like a rock star. More techies should get the same treatment. Absolutely. Throw in Ruth Buscombe, Bernie Collins as well, Hannah Schmidt. All of them should get more. I also think Gordon Murray deserves a bit more recognition. His amazing work. And it all started with Colin Chapman as well. I've always said Clark and Chapman, Newey, and all these champions, Hakkinen, Vettel as well, Damon Hill, Max Verstappen, they've all been so like that when you get a good car and a good technical director alongside as well. It's fantastic as well. Now, have we got any more coming through?
As I well, just wanted to add a few thoughts here on what Ed said about Adrian Newey. I think this, coming from, America, and knowing how our racing culture is, I always find it very fascinating, how you have the Adrian Neweys of the world. They get, like Ed say, rock star treatment. They get like put on a pedestal, while over here, you don't really see that as often, outside of, certain people like at Chip Ganassi Racing IndyCar, Barry Wanzer. Yeah, he gets a lot, and then also Michael Cannon as well, a highly respected engineer in the IndyCar paddock. They put him on a pedestal, and then like with NASCAR, certain crew chiefs who get put on there as well. Remember when Rodney Childers went to Spire Motorsports? It was a big deal in NASCAR circles because of who he is, what he's done with Kevin Harvick, Stewart-Haas Racing, and everything he's accomplished. and all of that. So that's probably the closest comparison to like the type of treatment that an Adrian Newey gets. And circling back to that second race at Milwaukee, you're right, Josh. That really shook up the title fight. Alex Palou had a battery die. At the beginning of the race, wasn't able to make the start, and then he was on a hole, and then it seemed like Will Power was gonna be able to capitalize on it. And then Will Power spun on that restart and ended up losing a whole bunch of points. So if Will Power hadn't have made that mistake, what could have possibly happened? And what would the point difference be heading into Nashville? It would certainly be a lot tighter, but it was just really insane to see how that Milwaukee race turned out. Definitely a missed opportunity there for Will Power, and as I talked about with the weather at Nashville and waiting to see what the hurricane would do. Matthew Owens backstage just said, that it's a 70% chance of rain on Sunday in Lebanon, Tennessee, where the track is located, just right outside of the city of Nashville. So we'll be watching the skies, and hopefully it won't have much of an impact because the weather can change a lot between now and Sunday. But we're definitely going to keep our fingers crossed there. And got some more comments from Edson at 100% on Gordon Murray. He did so much more than just a fan car. The McLaren F1 car comes to mind, and you say you almost forgot about the MP4/4, but Steve Nichols, I think, deserves some credit for that car as well.
I'm back. I don't know what happened there. It's the weather again, playing with systems, but I am back.
Good thing I kept talking.
Yes. Well, look at it. You can talk now, and I can make sure the technical bits are filled, because you not noticed Matt White's not with us this weekend. We send our best to him as well. He's not feeling too good. So filling in on the grid EPA update, it's our own Kobe Lambeth. Over to you, Kobe.
Thank you, Josh. We had a few EPI races last weekend in 3 different locations: Donington Park in the United Kingdom, Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama, and Sachsenring in Germany. And starting with the action at Donington, we saw the penultimate race of the 2024 British GT season. The race was won by father and son duo of Rob and Ricky Collar. Another championship that had its second to last race weekend of the year was GT World Challenge America, which had a pair of races at Barber. Sweeping the weekend, it was the DX DT Corvette GT3R of Tommy Miller and Alec Udell, who took race 1 and race 2 in Alabama. Meanwhile, over at Sachsenring, the DTM was in action. Jack Aiken won race 1 and Lucas Stoltz took race 2. And now looking at the EPI top 10, it's unchanged from last week. Still a Porsche Penske Motorsport party in the top 5, with Dame Cameron still at the top, followed by fellow Porsche factory drivers Andre Lauder, Lawrence Van Thor, Felipe Nasr, and Kevin Estre. Then you have Seb Priya, Kamui Kobayashi, Nick DeFries, Sebastian Alvarez, and Nick Tandy rounding out the top 10. And here's the full leaderboard top 50, concluding week 24 of the Grid Endurance Performance. And looking at this weekend's EPI races, the 24-hour series will be hosting the 24 Hours of Barcelona, while the FIA World Endurance Championship heads to Japan for the 6 Hours of Fuji. And last but not least, we'll see GT World Challenge Asia's season finale take place in Shanghai. And so far, we've been able to complete 109 of 152 EPI races this year. So we have 43 to go. Tune in next week for our latest EPI update as we get into the final stretch of the Endurance Performance Index season. And now it's time for some more motorsports news from around the world. One of the worst kept secrets inside the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship paddock was finally confirmed as Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti switches from Acura to Cadillac in 2025. WTR Andretti replaces Chip Ganassi Racing in the General Motors family, as Cadillac plans to fill 3 Cadillac GTP entries next year in IMSA, with 2 prototypes from WTR Andretti and 1 from Action Express Racing. For Wayne Taylor's operation, this move is a homecoming because he previously fielded a Cadillac prototype during the DPI era from 2017 through 2020, winning 3 times in the Rolex 24 Daytona, once in the 12 Hours of Sebring, and twice at Motul Petit Le Mans. However, for the Andretti part of this team, this helps them get more aligned with Cadillac on the sports car side of things as they continue to fight for the existence of their F1 project together, graphic courtesy of WTR Andretti. With Williams Racing Academy driver Zach O'Sullivan losing his Formula 2 seat at ART Grand Prix for the remainder of the season, another Williams Racing Academy driver is replacing him. Formula 3 driver Luke Browning gets to step up to F2 early after finishing 3rd in the F3 championship standings. Browning will make his F2 debut this weekend at Baku and will be in the car for the remainder of the 2024 F2 season alongside teammate Victor Martins, graphic courtesy of Williams Racing. Meanwhile, ART Grand Prix thanked Zach O'Sullivan for his hard work this year, including his victory in the Monaco feature race and Spa sprint race. I know after winning in Monaco, it makes you wonder how on earth could you lose your seat in Formula 2, but as we know, this is a business, unfortunately. That's what happened here. As you can see here on the screen, comment from Zach O'Sullivan saying, firstly, I want to thank ART Grand Prix and Williams Racing for all the support they have given me. This year, we've had some incredible moments, multiple wins, and a big highlight of winning the feature race in Monaco. Unfortunately, in our sport, there are more factors at play than just the stopwatch. The simple issue comes down to funding. I won't be able to complete this F2 season with ART Grand Prix. I'm gutted not to be able to show my talents for the rest of the year, but I want to say thank you to all my sponsors, Williams Racing, all of the supporters who are alongside me during this journey. Your support has been invaluable, and I can't wait to be able to drive for you and with you again soon. So they're from Zach O'Sullivan, who's waiting to figure out his future. And we have some more F2 news, because with Ollie Behrman set to miss the Formula 2 race weekend at Baku, he's going to, let me start over, got a little tongue-tied there. With Ollie Behrman set to miss the Formula 2 race weekend at Baku due to him stepping in for the one race ban driver Kevin Magnussen at Haas F1, it means that Formula 3 driver Gabriel Mini will replace Behrman at Prima. This will be Mini's F2 debut after finishing runner-up in the 2024 F3 Championship behind Leonardo Fornaroli. Mini first drove for Prima in 2020 during the Italian Formula 4 Championship season before returning to the team last year in the Macau Grand Prix, and just finished up a full F3 season with the same team. He said he's very happy to stay with Prima at the next level and feels like it's important to compete in F2 this year because being in this series is his main priority for the 2025 season. Photo courtesy of the team. IndyCar star Pato O'Ward will get to drive for the McLaren Formula 1 team in a free practice 1 session later this year. The 25-year-old Mexican driver will get his FP1 run at home. He'll drive the McLaren F1 car during the Mexican Grand Prix race weekend at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. This is notable because O'Ward has been very critical of IndyCar for not making more of a serious effort to race in Mexico. Now he won't have to wait long before getting the opportunity to drive in front of his home crowd on the weekend of October 27th. O'Ward said that this is a dream come true, and he'll be flying to Europe after the IndyCar season finale at Nashville to start focusing on his reserve driver duties with the McLaren F1 program. Photo taken by Joe Skabinski from Penske Entertainment. And with that said, I'm going to hand over to Josh for our Hot and Not segment this week.
There we go. Thank you, Kobe, as well. Sorry, I was on mute there, so I started talking, and no one could hear me. So I'm sure some people would enjoy that fact as well. So I'm back in control of Hots or Nots this weekend, and Matthew's going to join me alongside up here in the booth as well. Just the two motorsport series to talk about over the weekend with MotoGP and NASCAR going on from memory serving. We had the Goodwood Revival as well. I think definitely a hot and not there was Jimmy Johnson and Dario Franchitti getting a victory there. That made me smile, and some great racing. I thoroughly enjoyed the Goodwood Revival. Matthew, you should come and take a look at it next year. I was hopeful that I did put it in the chat so people saw, and hopefully you come and join us. But we'll start with you. What's your hots from this weekend?
Well, interestingly enough, and I try to stay away from doing this. I have more knots than hots.
Okay.
But I'm very happy with the way most of Atlanta went in the playoff opener. The track is losing grip, which we knew it would, because that track, just where it's at, it has lost grip a lot after reconfigurations. So we are seeing a change in how the races are being run there. It's not wide open all the time, 3 and 4 wide super speedway racing. There's more handling to be involved than at Daytona and Talladega. So I enjoyed the racing. I was very intrigued by Denny Hamlin's strategy. I'll get to that in knots. If I remember, I have so many things to talk about in that next segment. But very intrigued by his strategy. Very happy to see good runs from drivers that needed. Austin Cindric was terrific. Now he's above the cut line. Can he survive these next 2 races? Same goes for Daniel Suarez. I obviously don't want to see Kyle Larson having any misfortune, especially a hit that heavy. But I think what we've seen with Larson and Hamlin having poor points days and Hendrick and Suarez and Gibbs having strong days, we've really spiced this first round up. Now, you can argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because it does provide opportunities for drivers that maybe don't deserve to make it into the next round. They certainly have a chance with these next two races at Watkins Glen and Bristol, but pleased with the Atlanta race. I think that's just about it. It was a very light weekend for me.
It was, yeah. Yeah, not much went on, and personally for MotoGP, I don't know if we have the new picker winner graphic. I know we probably don't, but I was this close to doing a double. I really was. Where am I? Yeah, look at me. Look now. I'm up to 12th on 2. I got 2 points. I was so happy with myself. I put it in the chat. Thank you, Kobe. I was so happy with myself because I thought Joey Logano might get the... Did Logano win? I can't remember now. Yeah. Logano won, and I put that as a possibility, and then I put Marc Marquez to win as well in the MotoGP Grand Prix. So my biggest heart was that for once, my predictions came true. I was not the commentator's curse. I was so happy. I thought after, Marc Marquez won, fantastic, got to pick a winner point. And then I put it in the chat. Logano was 1 overtime away as well, and I was like, I'm gonna get it. So I was very happy. I got 2 pick a winner points. So yeah, that was mine. Thoroughly enjoyed the MotoGP race because it has changed the championship again with Martin's mistake. That has allowed the championship to close back up after Bagnaia's mistake in Aragon. So it's sort of ebbing and flowing, and Marc Marquez now is 50-something points, but 53 points back, not out the realms of possibility that he can win the championship with 7.5 to go with sprint races. So this is fantastic racing that we're going to see right to the end of the season, and we're getting to the time now where we're going to have the night races. So day races for you lot, because we're going to go Indonesia, Thailand, Australia, Japan, Malaysia, then it's Valencia. So we're getting very much to the end of the season, and I can't wait. It's so much fun. And San Marino's up next anyway.
I've told you the last couple of years, actually, that I've really wanted to get into MotoGP. And now that it is available stateside, I have. But, and I'm going to sound like our friend Matt here on this, with everything that goes on, through the summer, the Olympics and all the NASCAR and all the IndyCar and everything else, and especially now that football season started and we're not far from basketball and hockey. The last time I watched, I've got them all on the DVR, but the last MotoGP race I've watched was Mugello.
Ooh, you're way behind.
I'm so far behind, and I'm trying to learn because it hasn't been available over here in so long. I'm trying to learn.
Oh, I've frozen.
You have, yes. But I'm very far behind. I'm just like our guy Matt with, everything else that he tries to watch. I'm just like him on the MotoGP.
I don't know if I'm still audible. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yes. I was wondering if I should keep talking.
We'll rattle on. What's your knots then? We'll let you go. What's your knots on the weekend?
Okay, so here we go. Starting with the people on social media and Sirius XM NASCAR radio calling in and complaining about Denny Hamlin's strategy. Oh my goodness, he's not trying. It's the 100% rule. And oh my goodness gracious. Can we please shut up? He is hardly the first person in the history of super speedway drafting track racing to say, listen, I don't want to risk it. Playoff opener, I've got a points cushion, even though it was smaller because of the penalty from a few weeks ago. I don't want to risk getting involved in a crash. Not to mention, he didn't have a car that he liked the way it handled. He's going to hang out at the back and hope to avoid the carnage and then maybe try to steal, as he said, 20 points. Now, obviously, he still got caught up in a last corner crash. That's how most of the time that goes. But, oh my gosh, the amount of people that say he should be penalized. It's the 100% rule. He's not giving 100%. Like, what are you talking about? Oh my gosh. I know hardly anyone likes them some Denny Hamlin. But still, you can't honestly think that, surely. Oh my gosh. So
it's ridiculous.
That was very frustrating. I'll tell you another part of just the frustration. And I don't know, maybe I'm making too much out of this. But when you hear Lee Diffie call NASCAR, you really think, gosh, why didn't we do this before?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean,
I've said it all week.
Goodness. I mean, they've had this in the second NBC NASCAR stint. They've had this for nearly a decade now. And you think, oh my God. And then you hear Rick Allen on Saturday, and it just sounds so different. It sounds so different.
It's more monotone, no passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's been one of the big complaints. He just sounds very robotic. He's got the voice of a broadcaster that you typically would want. It's like he sounds like he was created in a lab to have a broadcaster voice. But it's just so lifeless.
It's more akin to what you would expect on basketball or baseball.
Yeah.
In that regard, yeah. It's not the harsh, aggressive one that you need for motorsport, which is it's completely different. Like I enjoy calling tennis, but it sounds like you're watching the final lap of Abu Dhabi 2021 every single time I'm on. It takes a lot out of you, so you need to have that sort of a flexibility around it. And even I'm finding as well, calling NASCAR, it's a different kettle of fish because when you're at the start, they're going to stay 2 by 2. So there's no point going, it's incredible. You've got to you've got to allow the start to happen. And then you've got to see who starts moving up the high lines as well. And it's not like when you have IndyCar on an oval where you've got people moving around at the back way before the flag. So you have to be energetic. So, and it's different. The energy for NASCAR comes at the ending. When you're on the last lap and you got 3 wide and you sort of got to look at the high line because you're going to get a tow. And that's where the shouty picks come from. So I think Rick Allen's great at the starts. He's just not great at the ending.
Oh, well, I've said for years, he's a great highlight announcer.
Yeah.
He'll hit those big moments. You can create highlights from it for the most part because he has the great voice and you have to have the in-betweens to come up with a very good broadcast. Anyway, this is not a bash Rick Allen or bash NBC segment, but I'm going to continue to bash NBC because this isn't a not from this past weekend. This is a not for this weekend. Why is the IndyCar finale clashing with a NASCAR playoff race? Why?
Well, they don't care about it. They don't care about IndyCar anymore. They don't. They haven't cared about it all year long.
They care not the slightest. Don't let the door hit you on the way out is how they're treating this. This is so very bad that we have a NASCAR playoff race on USA at the same time as the IndyCar finale on NBC when, as we mentioned earlier, Nashville has lights. Now, obviously, if you wanted the IndyCar finale on NBC rather than USA, you could not have it on a Saturday or a Sunday night because they've got football on NBC both nights. But what would be the harm of putting them both on NBC, IndyCar at noon, NASCAR at 3, or just reverse it? Either way works. Either way works. Nashville's in the Central Time Zone, so if you want to put NASCAR at 12... That's a whole other conversation, putting NASCAR at 12. We should be doing that every week. But put NASCAR at 12. It's a very quick race at Watkins Glen. I know that's the kiss of death. Now we're going to have 17 overtimes this week.
Thanks.
But last year, it was like the quickest race in the history of time at Watkins Glen last year.
I think I joined you in the commentary box. Yeah. I was supposed to be there for just a quick update. I ended up staying in the pit lane always because he was like, "Oh, we're going to be done in 5 minutes."
and the Nashville race, the IndyCar Nashville race, if not for weather, it's going to be a very quick race too. It's going to scoot along. So start NASCAR at 12:30, start IndyCar at 4.
We're done. Yeah.
And then you're easily out of the way before, who is it? The Texans and the Bears on Sunday night. That is so infuriating to me. It's infuriating to me personally because I can't watch both doing what I do.
Which one are you covering?
Oh, I'm doing Watkins Glen.
You're doing Watkins Glen.
Because we got you on IndyCar, so it just makes it a lot easier. So it's frustrating personally, but who cares about me? I'm talking about the actual core racing fans.
Everyone loses.
You have to get it on split screen or something. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe they've done it, and they've had all season to fix it. I mentioned this to you back in like April. This was coming. Yeah. And why have they done nothing about it is beyond me, to the point of they just don't care anymore. They just don't.
I would think it's now me and Jackson in the commentary box for IndyCar, and then you have got everybody else helping you out in the NASCAR booth because it's Watkins Glen, isn't it? So you've got track announcers, turn announcers,
But it's just that's so frustrating. Forget just my personal frustration. Just everyone loses with this, as you said.
Well, they don't care. NBC do not care anymore, and that's why Fox have picked it up. So what's that Kent Brockman thing as well? Where when the aliens invade or something or other?
Now, you bring up Fox, by the way. I will be very interested. I'll be very interested to see how Fox handles this next year, when not just the finale either, just the races after they wrap up their NASCAR portion of the season. How do they schedule IndyCar races time-wise compared to when the NASCAR races start? I'll be very intrigued.
Well, we've got to only deal with that until August 31st as well, because for some reason we're ending it in the summer. So yeah, that's a very strange.
Oh, we couldn't clash with football with Fox. Definitely couldn't do that. Oh my gosh.
I mean, IndyCar is supposed to be a season long. We start in February, we end in August. So you get this season in the first half of the year. It's just
it was either have all your races on Fox and end it in August, or have your final handful of races on FS1, because we're not bumping anything in favor of football.
I would much. I don't know. I'm personally looking forward to calling the end of the NASCAR season and seeing what it does and how it could be for IndyCar in those time slots. Getting towards November, seeing what we can go. I think that's going to be the goal, to sort of spread them out. Because if there's one thing that we're now in September, and just before we came on air today, I thought I feel shattered, and it's just like I do these as we all do from here. It's like, I can't believe how the people who actually have to travel are feeling. And I've traveled a fair bit this year, and I feel flaked out, ready for the winter. And it's going to be one of those days. Brands Hatch. I'll be in Brands Hatch. So that's going to be for the end of the touring car year. I told Megan, do you want to come with me to Donington Park next year for the touring car season opener? I said, it takes us 20 minutes to get from our sister's house to the bus stop. It's a 45-minute bus journey. And then you've got to walk half an hour into the circuit. And you've got to spend 5 hours walking around a paddock with microphones and equipment and running up and down and catching people. Then you've got to do all that in reverse as well. And she said, how many steps? It's about 26,000 steps. And she went, no. So she's not coming to Donington Park next year. That'll just be me again. But it's a fit business. You've got to be. You've got to have a good constitution about you. So I've booked myself in for 2 new hips in about 10 years' time. I'll probably need them. Have we finished your knots, Matthew?
Yes, I think I'll stop it right there, because I don't like being too negative. I really don't.
Yes, presented by insert your company name here, of course, as well. Before we take a look at the upcoming schedule, I just want to say a personal tribute as well to the Grand Tour, of course, with Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, James made their last ever road trip premieres on Friday around the world on Amazon Prime Video as well. Just a personal tribute to me as well. Some fine automotive journalists and have brought the love of cars to so many people around the world. And have a good last one, boys, as well. It's going to be fantastic. And I know I'll be watching very emotional. So have a good one.
By the way, did you have any knots?
Just a DD12 going off on the last lap and coming back after, and I missed. I had to give it to Josh T for the end. That was pretty much the only knot I had. I thought it was quite a calm weekend for me personally in the box.
Well, I did just want to ask you that because I wanted to make sure we got through both of our hots and knots, because I did just want to say at the very end of it, a special hot, Jackson Lambros. He was on USRN this weekend, did extremely well. I mean, you want to talk about jumping in to the deep end head first and just flourishing. My goodness.
He's so good, isn't he?
Yeah.
I know. He's taken the lead on some of the IndyCar races this year, and he's now the relief commentator for IndyCar when I'm not there. So he's fantastic. We've sort of got those across all the series. Like Jess has got Formula E, Josh T's got IndyCar, touring cars and NASCAR along with you. You've got NASCAR, and Jackson's got IndyCar. And Omi's got the support series F2, F3, and Porsche Supercup. So we've sort of spread them all out as to who needs to be where. If the day comes that I'm never in an F1 commentary box, the world has exploded. Because F1 and MotoGP are sort of mine I cling on to with every fiber of my being, because they're my favorites.
Well, and of course, it's not easy to jump in the very first one and try to do a radio broadcast on, and the first one's a super speedway. Wow. Yeah, that was very difficult what he did, and he did a great job. So now we're going to be fighting over him.
Yes, yeah. We'll get some contracts.
I'll get custody of him every other weekend, and we'll work it out.
We'll be fine. It's just it's fun actually, because it does take the pressure off, as Kobe knows from running Grid Tonight as well. It's always nice when we know there's other people that can step in if anybody needs time off as well. So we've got a very flexible team that we can just pick and pop in. That's what I like about it. And it does mean, by the way, if I ever do miss a Formula One, it's either going to be Megan, it's either going to be George Morgan or Tom Brooks. They're the sort of the three behind the scenes who step in, because I know, Matthew, you half the time are busy covering a million other things.
Me?
I actually don't know who would ever. I've often thought who would step into Formula One if I'm not there. I really have.
I don't want to think about that, Josh.
I know, I don't. It's nerve-wracking. I did it when I had COVID, so yeah, it'd have to be, I'd have to be comatose not to be in that commentary box. I've often said they'd have to carry me out of the commentary box when my time eventually comes. I will never leave that box.
Let's not talk about carrying me. That's a very difficult job to do. I'm 5 times your size, Josh. So let's not.
I'm not sure. I could eat for England. I can tell you that right now, my friend. I've been given a penguin bar. That's alongside me in the commentary box. If I showed you my floor, my friend, there are too many red bars and crisp packets that galore that's just ended up under my desk on my floor. And if I hand behind the television, there's a very large packet of crisps that I'm going to be eating at some point over the next 2 years. Trust me, I can eat for England.
Again, it's just sometimes I listen to you and Matt, and when you say crisps and biscuits.
Oh, yes, it's your chips and cookies, aren't you?
Yes, I live here in North Carolina. Of course, Kobe will know this very well. Gravy and biscuits mean something very different to us than it does you.
Yes, it does. It does. And I even have checkered flag glasses now. That's been, I can't say it, with Coke. So, yeah. See, I have everything. And I'd say what, I've been asked so many times. We'll wrap up now because I've just looked at the time.
Might need to.
I've been asked so many times. I've talked in commentaries about my love of cooking, and I love to cook and everything as well. I've honestly thought about just doing a live stream where I cook, because how funny would that be? If you want to see it, let us know in the comments below the video.
That's the moneymaker right there. Forget this racing stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I would love it. I do enjoy cooking. I cook some very weird things, and they are very delicious as well. So yeah, I've just got Megan into it as well, cooking, because she can cook, so she's learning now. But I love it; it's fantastic. Anyway, this is getting more into a chat podcast as well than a Motorsport one. But let us know if you do want to see that. That'd be funny as well. We'll do like a cooking segment on one of the shows and get some in. Hi, all. Hoping for good weather when Kyle Larson attempts to double in 2025, says Adam. We're hoping for exactly the same thing as well, to get us back onto a motorsport topic as well. Okay, thank you, Matthew. Taking a look at our upcoming schedule then for the weekend. Saturday, Grid Live pre-race is at noon Eastern. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Watkins Glen International and the NTT IndyCar Series season finale at Nashville. So it's a busy day there. As well, Monday Grid Encore, recapping the ARCA and Xfinity Series races at Watkins Glen, plus the Indy NXT season finale at Nashville as well. And you know, if you want to see it, my cooking show, just anytime, we'll get that sorted and get some cameras up. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach the 1,000 subscribers milestone. Now we are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications when we go on air, and you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Rochelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks who help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start sending our team out to the track to cover more races and continue expanding our coverage. Link to that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and get your name on the board and invest as much as you want. And you can consider buying a specific on-air personality cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air as well. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matthew Owens from Ultimate Sports Radio Network, I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.